I'll jump back into the presentation. So controlled and gradual way for delegation. There's lots of ways leaders can work with their teams. At the very top of this, we see people who will just tell you what to do. And so what we're doing through this process, getting down to delegation, is we're moving to a place where we move ownership from one person to another. And we're trying to build the best process whereby you as a leader can take on responsibility. They as a leader can give responsibility. And so some people will just tell you, go do this. That's one kind of delegation. Go pick this up, do it. And that's a level of delegation. Then there's the sell mindset, where we're trying to sell them to own it, convince them of why it should get done and what they should do about it so they'd see it as something they're going to pick up and run. There could be the level of consulting them, where we help with them to figure out what to do and decide. And then we can agree together. We can actually go to the full point of culminating discussion, saying, well, here's what we're going to do. And we agree and move forward with the confirmation of the person you're getting the delegation from. You could also advise them as they go along. Do a couple steps, come back and check. Do a couple steps, come back and check. Or you can just let it go and they start running, and then the leader comes back and inquires, how's it going? What are you working on? How far did that go? The most beautiful, effective method of delegation is to fully delegate. It's to give it to them and walk away. And each of these levels requires less and less on the person who's delegating, because the other person is going to own more of it. But it also puts an ownership of us to communicate really well what it is to look like to succeed, so that person can own it. I think the best form of delegation is when someone transfers and walks it away. But what that does is, for me as a leader, is it frees up my mind to go focus on other things and not to worry about the results of what I delegated. Excuse me. Look at those other versions. There's still an awful lot of work to coordinate that. If I tell you, go to the store and pick up some bread, and you come back 6 hours later and you picked up pumpernickel. Well, you did what I asked you to do, but it took you 6 hours. Where you been? Well, I went to the store that was down in Ennis. I could save 12 cents on a loaf of bread. And then the pumpernickel was on sale. I thought you'd like that. You know, I hate pumpernickel. Who even eats pumpernickel? Well, you didn't tell them, go right here to the Kroger's, pick it up, and be back right away so we can be for this meeting and get me a loaf of wheat bread. It wasn't specific. And so we get what we get. What happens when that doesn't work right is people get frustrated. And what happens when they get frustrated is they stop delegating. I gave it to you last time. You didn't do a good job with it. I can't count on you, so I'll just keep it. What does that do when we end up keeping stuff because we don't delegate?
You get overloaded.
Yep. You can only do so much. What else?
It causes frustration, right?
Yep. You're not helping your team grow. If I keep all the work because I don't think you're qualified or you didn't do it the way I wanted last time, I'm not helping you. And we bring people on our team to have them bring the best version of what they can do. But after a while, you get kind of in a rut, you lose your mojo, and it's frustrating and there's no fun. And so we have to continue to have things that we're doing that empower our team to own stuff. I like this phrase, delegation is a transfer of trust. Would you write that down if you're taking copious notes, which I hope you are? Delegation is a transfer of trust. When you tell someone, I'm going to have you do this, it's implicit that you trust them. I wouldn't go to someone who didn't know anything about me or my business or the goals I have or my clients and say, hey, would you call up Drew Jacoy and tell him that we're going to go ahead and move his meeting for the satisfaction review assessment to a Thursday? I don't know those people. They don't know who Drew is. They don't know how to say it. You have to be able to count on someone enough, a certain level, right, to trust them. If I'm giving something to you, it's because I trust you. It's implicit in the fact I gave it to you. Sometimes we as people getting delegated to feel like the leader is just dumping stuff on us because they don't want to do it. There's probably some part of that. I mean, at some point, I'm hiring people to take on the things that I either don't want to do or that anyone can do, and I can focus on the things that I do best. So I want to give out as much as I can. The more that Barbie gives to the team, the more times Barbie has to think clearly and make creative ideas and find new opportunities and to meet with the team and coach them instead of working on projects. We always talk about you manage the process and you lead the people. Well, if I'm so busy working on the process, I don't have a chance to lead the people, I don't get the results I'm looking for. So if I can build a process and manage the process, are we following the process? Have everyone been trained to the process? We'll get into the tools in just a second. But if I can build that, then I can give them more and more work. And then I can go ahead, while they're running the business, I can then lead them. I can encourage them, coach them, look out for them, care for them. One of our goals in our company is that we want to work as fast as we can, be as focused as we can, so we get it done as quickly as we can, so we can have more time to be human. Angie walks in the morning. She's had a rough weekend. You know, we got a lot of stuff to do. I can just say, hey, Angie, talk about it at lunchtime. We got to get going. But that's not being real. That's not caring for her. And so we have to spend some time listening to what her world's like in the morning because it's heavy on her heart. That's caring for someone. I want to have time to care for people, but we don't have time to care for people because we're so busy, because we're so overloaded. But what if we could delegate things to someone who could do it in 1/10 of the time it takes you to do it? And they did it so fast that they'd have time to go to lunch with you and enjoy the friendships that we have and working together, or to volunteer, or to think creatively, or to help with a problem that's not theirs, but someone else needs help. Delegating to people allows the best of the best to be the best at what they're best at. I just made that up. You could write that down. That would make a really great shirt. Someone should create that. So in the process of effective delegation, we're going to use the term effective delegation. There's lots of delegation. We went through some of the examples earlier that aren't effective. They're just too time consuming. They're clunky. They don't work well. In effective delegation, this is what it takes. So write this down. There's 4 areas. There's clear and compelling communication. There's tools. There's training. And then we can have accountability. Clear and compelling communication, tools, training, and then accountability. I like this slide from the dentist's office. Dentist says, when was the last time you flossed? And the guy's like, bro, you were there. I like that because he's only flossing when he's at the dentist's office. I assume you got that. My wife used to work in the dentist field. We just love this one. So effective delegation, the first part of the process is clear and compelling communication. So when you go to the doctor, he's the dentist, he says, hey, you should floss. And you're like, yeah, okay, thank you. And then you leave and you go home and for 6 months, you don't floss. Then you go back to the dentist. He clearly said you should floss. When you go back to the dentist 6 months later, he goes, oh, geez, your gums are receding, they're bleeding. And this one's got like this really bad look to it. Have you been flossing? No. Oh, well, I told you to floss. Yeah, you did. Well, you got 2 cavities and I have to do this repair on here. And I got this other, you caused your gum to recede so bad. It's now attacking the root line of your tooth. And $4,000 later and a needle in the gum and drilling in your teeth. You have all these problems that come out of it because you didn't floss. So now when you leave the dentist's office and he goes, you should floss, it's clear and compelling. Now you have a reason why. Sometimes we know what we're supposed to do, but we still don't do it. Get certain number of servings of vegetables a day. I don't even know what that is, like 3 or something, or 12. I don't know, as you can tell. We're supposed to get 8 hours of sleep, but we don't always do that. You know, we're supposed to maintain our car a certain way. We know we're supposed to do, but until it's compelling, we won't do it. It's the same thing with delegation. When you ask someone to do something, do they get it? Do they know what you're asking and why? The why behind something allows them to look at what they're doing and think of things you didn't even tell them. I want this report on my desk by 5 o'clock. And if they do the report by 5 o'clock, but it's all black and white and it doesn't have charts, it doesn't look very pretty, and you go, wait, I'm not supposed to give this to a customer. How can I give it to it? It looks horrible. Well, they didn't know what it was for. So they just thought you wanted some data. But if they knew it was to give to a customer, they could have printed it in color with beautiful pictures and charts. It wasn't clear and compelling. So whose fault is that when we give someone an assignment and we don't make it compelling? That's on us. It's taking the time to really explain behind the why of what we're asking someone to do. Any questions about that principle? Okay. One of the challenges I see with leaders is they lead by correction. Leaders struggle to delegate because they haven't taken the time to really know what they want. So how can they tell you what to do? They say, work on this project. And then halfway through it, they come by, how's it going? They look at it and they go, oh, that's not right. Why are you doing that? We don't need to calculate that. No one needs to know that. That's not right. And they tear it up. And how does that make you feel? You worked really hard on that. You thought you were doing the right thing. You didn't know you weren't supposed to show that. So you took on the task, you worked on it, and they just eat you up. You feel frustrated. Man, I worked on that, put a lot of time into that. And then they say it's wrong. They get frustrated because you're not doing what they want. You're frustrated because you didn't do what they wanted, but you didn't know. So those leaders who lead by correction, they are ruining the joy of delegation. So clear and compelling communication and not lead by correction. Tools is the next one. What tools does your team need to do their job correctly and efficiently? Again, back to that mindset that our team has. We want to work as efficiently as we can so we can go goof off. Why do I have to stay here 8 hours a day? If I can get my work done in a few hours, we go to lunch together. Maybe we have a wind down Friday. Is it Fridays or Wednesdays? I don't know when you guys have your wind down the week. Friday, wind down Fridays. Well, we make time for that. But if we're all maxed out and burned out and overwhelmed, I can't sit and have wine with you guys and build friendships. I have this project to get done. Well, if you didn't manage your time right, or if it takes you so long, what are some of the tools that you use? Obviously a computer, but there's SOPs, standard operating procedures and documents, policies, things. What other tools do you guys use that help you do things efficiently? How about some research databases? Do you guys tap into those?
Sure do.
And Drew, I think when you're doing real estate sales, brokering real estate projects, you're not driving around the neighborhood in your car looking for buildings. You probably tap into a database and you look for these things on some kind of a large database, right? There is tools out there that we can use to improve the efficiency of what we do so that when someone delegates us, it gets done consistently and efficiently. If someone gives you a job to do and it takes you too long, what do? They take it back. That took you forever. Give it back to me. I'll do it myself. Then you never get a chance to learn. You never get a chance to get better. And then they never get a chance to move on to something else because they took back what they delegated for. So if you don't have the tools to do something, let your team know. This is taking me forever. We got to buy Angie a new computer because hers is getting old. And sometimes if she opens too many spreadsheets at the same time, it starts crawling like it's barely working. It's time to buy another computer. That's a tool. If our databases are not easily organized and it takes you forever to find something, if we're using an outdated system, those are the kind of things we need to keep up on so we can do it effectively. Okay, the next one is training. So it's got to be clear. I got to know why. I got to have the tools to do it effectively, consistently over and over again. But then I got to practice. When I work with people in the construction industry, they hire people who come from different companies that do the same job as they're doing at their place, but it's a different way of doing it. At the last company, this is the steps they followed, 1, 2, 3. And the philosophy about doing things was this and X, Y, Z. Now they come to a new company. Your company doesn't do that. Even though they're an experienced project manager or a supervisor or whatever role they played, doing it your way requires training. But if we don't take the time to really watch someone do it and go, well, that's great, you followed all the steps, but here's some things that are subtle things. And these are the way we talk to people and, go to a job site and make sure everything's done on time. But also when you're at the job site, there's other things that go into that. There's the using of the tools, how efficiently to use them and when. There's the knowledge base of how to be able to see something and be able to see it's wrong just by looking around. It takes some time. And if we're not effectively training our people and then they get out and start doing the job poorly, that's our fault. So I can't delegate to someone unless they've had a chance to prove it. Plus, I can't walk away and know it's going to be done right every time if I'm not really confident that you know how to do it. So I've got to watch you do it, see the results, give a little feedback, go, that was great, took you a little longer, use this tool instead. Let me help you with this. That should have gone quicker. You left this part off. And that feedback that we give them helps to refine and get it better. Once someone's done it consistently well, they've been trained. If you give them clear and compelling communication and the tools to do it efficiently, and you've watched them do it, and they've done it well consistently over time, they can own it. That's when you can truly have accountability. Effective delegation means you own it. So we've provided all these three things at the top before we go to the fourth. But a lot of times leaders don't take the time to give clear and compelling communication. And when I talk about leaders, it's really all of us. I mean, you may not be the owner of the company, but you work with someone. Everyone's a leader to someone, even if you're just leading a situation. You guys are all recruiters. You guys are all salespeople, whatever your role is. You're working together. If someone goes out and gets a client, they're leading that process. Then you take it over, and then you're leading that process. But either way, we're leading. And if we're not giving clear and compelling communications to the salespeople about the kind of customers we want, we bring them in and we can't serve them well. And if the salespeople aren't clear about the kinds of things they're looking for the client, the people doing the recruiting can't do it well. So there's that requirement for each of us to serve up clear and compelling communications back and forth, the tools, the training. Then we can really hold people up to a level of excellence. Remember, you can't hold anyone accountable, but we can hold ourselves accountable. And we want to create an environment where people want to be accountable, because we've created, it's my son calling me. We've created an environment where people feel like they can own it, where what they do matters. And so when they understand all these processes, they're willing to own it and take it and run with it. Now, if we have someone who's gone through the clear and compelling communication, the tools, and you train them and you watch them and they've done it consistently time after time, and something starts to fall apart and they're not doing it, then we say, you're accountable for that, and we can talk to them about it. What we don't want to do is jump to conclusions. Well, this guy's doing a bad job, we got to get rid of him. Maybe he's going through a divorce. Maybe his health is bad and didn't want to talk about it. Maybe there's some issues with his kids. I don't know. Maybe he's not getting along with a coworker, but doesn't want to talk about it. We need to be the kinds of leaders who take the time to understand people, because that enables us to get the best out of our team. And then they are willing to be accountable because they work in a place where they feel like they're being honored and respected. What do you think about that? Let's have some dialogue about that. Alfredo, what do you think?
Definitely makes sense. And I think more than anything, what resonates with me is, obviously the clear communication and engagement is a must. If there's any ambiguity left in the direction that's given, then the task may not be performed as you expect, and then that's on you. But I think at least one thing that I know that as I've been evolving as a leader, I think I used to do, and I'd like to say that I'm getting better at, is not taking away the opportunity for the person that I'm delegating to be able to effectively complete the task. I like to be very hands-on, and so it has been a journey to remove myself from certain things that I am asking somebody else to do, to make sure that they can effectively run into the issues that they need to run to, provide the guidance that I can provide for them to solve the problems that they have to, but not come in and try to resolve those problems for them. That takes away the experience that they need to continue to develop themselves, and really takes away from me being able to effectively delegate and then focus on other things. So at least, and it's something that I see across my organization quite a bit too. So I think that that's something that we need to continue to work through. So the rest of the topics make total sense, the tools and everything too, but the trust that you're putting in someone, I think, is important, not just to say it, but to be able to reflect it in the way that you're engaging with them.
If you're not absolutely sure someone gets it, what do? You keep coming back and checking on them, right? And you keep like a tickler reminder, call John to see if he's keeping up with the project. Every week or so, you're checking in. and you're just kind of worried that, I don't know if they really got it. And so it consumes a portion of your mental capacity. And we really need all the mental capacity we can have, because there's so much out there that demands our attention. And if I've got to remember 15 different things that I've delegated and hopes that people are working on them, they consume even a tiny increment of my brain capacity. And then I'm not fully available for whatever else I want to work on. So if you can give it to someone and completely walk away from it and never think about it again, that truly frees you up to give all your energy to something else, right?
Yeah, and I do think it's, important to maintain communication and, obviously mention if something's coming up, I'm always here to help. At the end of the day, we're working on this together. Obviously, it's their task, it's their project, it's what they're working through. But providing that feeling of a safety net, I think, is important. Now, beyond that, I do think that it is important too that they run into the issues that they need to run into. That's not only helpful for development that they're going to require, but I do think that it is a good exercise to show that trust that, hey, this is going to be a complex project. There's going to be things that come up. There's going to be things that you're going to have to work through. I'm here to support if you need it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I trust that you're going to be able to make the right decisions to continue moving this thing forward.
Now, if it's a complex project, you could break it into pieces and say, okay, I delegate the first part, and then we're going to meet and see how the first part went. And then you can say, great job, let's go to the second part. You don't just give them all the pieces and walk away and go, gee, I hope it works out. Because there could be a very complex where you need to do some handoffs, some readjustments, and go back and evaluate. But still, that part you gave them, you've got to be able to walk away and leave it completely. Why do people
100%.
sometimes keep coming back to you and asking questions when you've given something to someone? Why do they keep coming back and asking questions?
So at times I feel like it's maybe fear of decision making, which is something that, again, is important for people to be able to develop that confidence in that decision making. And so while I am here to support and provide guidance, at the end of the day, I do want them to feel comfortable in making that decision. I do try to provide that safety net as much as I can. I think that in part it does come down to that. And I have seen, at least with the people that I work with, that they have taken a little bit more confidence in that decision making and ability to carry things through. There's a couple of specific things that, frankly, I feel like I'm not turning my head as much as I probably would have a long time ago. And I think that's good, not just for the person that I'm assigning these things to, but for myself as well.
Yeah. And if you're not really letting them struggle with it, you're not proving to them they can get it done. You're not helping them build their muscles. They're not learning to take risks. What kind of environment do we have? Do we have an environment where it's okay to fail, where it's okay to take a risk and make a mistake? If not, they're going to come back and ask you every couple of minutes, is this okay? Is this okay? Do you like this? Is this all right? Because if we've not said, look, go for it. And if you screw up, we'll work it out. But, within reason, not help them drive a truck down the highway. But, we've got to give people the chance to flex their muscles and learn independence, confidence, responsibility, risk-taking, creative thinking. If they can only baby stick and look back at you and look back, like your kid going out to do something dangerous in the pool and they keep looking back to see if it's okay. And they're watching you to see if you're doing right. We don't want our employees like that. We want them to go for it. So we've got to create a culture where they are willing to take a risk if we ever hope that they'll take it and run with it.
I want to say one other thing that I think is really important also is that a good leader also kind of knows like what the threshold is and what you've already given. So like there's times that like if I know I've got all of these things that I need to give and to delegate, but I know that I've already given that same person all of this other stuff, that it's really on me to know like that threshold of like what I need to give to this person and what they can handle and what they can't. And I think that's the key thing, is to kind of know your people and know like there's people that their gas tank, they start the day and that gas tank's at 100% and they are 100% gas tank kind of people. And there's some day that then there's other people that they start their day and they run at 70%, and that's the way they are wired. Like they're wired like that. So I think that that's like a key thing in a good leader, is to know your people well enough to know like who can take this and who can I give to,
right?
And then what's their capacity to handle that.
Yeah.
Because you don't want a whole group of people that are just overwhelmed, overworked, and like you've given the low gas tank people stuff that the person that runs at 100 needs to have that because they can handle that. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but
It is.
I feel like
It is. And we're going to talk about the rules of engagement in just a minute. But I think that you being aware of your team, remember we talked about margin a while ago and how when you create margin in your life, look at this angry face I have whenever I talk. I have this really, this really angry face. I'm not an angry person, I swear.
it's your eyebrows.
Angry eyebrows. I need to get the VeggieTale people to come in and fix
It's
my
the
eyebrows.
serious face. It's not angry. It's a serious face. Right?
I am serious, man. When we talked about margin in the past, when someone has a low tank emotionally, how good are they at work? And if you don't know your team and you can't discern people and you just figure every day we come in and we just work this much, man, some days I come in, I'm excited. My life is great. I'm up here. I'm working hard. Other days I just had a fight with my wife and I'm worried about my kid. I'm down here. That could go from day to day. What if you're having someone who's got long-term issues? When Kathy and I were in debt for all those years, that debt reared its ugly head almost weekly. All right, oh, how are you going to pay this bill? Let's juggle this for that. That bogged me down. So what if your employees are struggling with debt, physical issues, relational issues, conflict at work, conflict with customers? We have to know our team's capabilities and they vary. That's why we give grace to one another. That's why a good leader is listening, asking the right questions, engaging people. That may include, hey, listen, why don't you take the day off? You know, you're overwhelmed. You're not going to be productive anyway. You're going to sit at your desk and look at the screen and get nothing done. Why don't you go home and be with your kids and come back tomorrow, let's get some stuff done. That's the discerning leader that we need to be, because people are always going through different issues. Any other feedback before I continue? Okay. I am doing that. Awesome. Let me go to here and share the screen. Find this one. Okay, does that look right? You just see you don't see my notes?
We can see.
You see my notes?
Yes.
You're good. You're good.
No, you don't see my notes, right? Because I don't have the wrong screen up.
You got the right screen.
Okay, good. All right. I'll figure this out eventually. Okay, rules of engagement. Here's some things that I found are really helpful for proper rules of engagement. When I give something to someone, they got to tell me if they can't do it right when I give it to them. Because if I'm going to you and I've asked you to do all this stuff all day long and I think of one more thing, hey, will you do this? You've got to be able to say, you know, I don't think I can get that done in the time that you want or with the excellence that you need with the work that I'm carrying. You're allowed to say no. A lot of times people will never say no because they feel like someone else will think that they're not doing a good job or they're not capable. How will I get a raise or a promotion if I ever say no to something? I always have to say yes, take on everything I possibly can. That's not honest. That's not real. If you're having a hard time, let's say you're doing a project and this client's a pain. I know you guys probably have no difficult clients, but some people have difficult clients. Let's say this client's really a pain and just getting to commit is double, triple taking the time it normally takes. And you're walking through some challenging requirements on how to fill a position, or this guy keeps changing his expectation. You might be loaded up. And when someone gives you something that you would normally do, you'd have to say, look, I can't do it. What's the worst is if you take it and then you don't do it, because it's better for you to say, I just can't get to that. Hey, I'll do it myself. No problem. We delegate, but we don't have to delegate. I mean, I'm not above anything. Barbie's not above anything. And if she's giving it to you, it's because she wants you to get the chance to do it, because that's a transfer of trust. She's giving you a chance to learn to do more stuff. Plus, the more she frees herself up, the more she can do other things, grow the business, all that. So, but if I'm giving it to you and you just can't do it, you got to say no. And we got to have a rule on our team that says it's okay to say no. Now, if you're constantly saying no, we've probably got issues. You probably aren't being delegate. You probably aren't being diligent in your work. You need better tools. You need more training. There's something we can do. Back to those 4 things of delegation. Was it not clear and compelling? Do you need more tools? Do you need more training? If that's the process, let's work on that. Don't take something you can't do. Then if you have issues, tell me before it's due. There's nothing worse than I walk down the hall and I go, hey, that was due on Friday. I didn't see it come in. Did you get it done? Oh, no, I can't get it done until at least Tuesday. Why didn't you tell me that on Thursday of last week? I would have picked it up and done it myself. We have to say, if we can't get it done, we're allowed to tap out. Maybe when you took it, you said, yeah, I can do this. But then this customer came back in and they had a big problem, or you were home with sick with the flu, or your kids are sick, or your car broke down. There's a million things that could happen. At the time I took the commitment, I really knew I could do it. But then where I am today, I can't do it. So being real is okay where things come up, but you got to say before it's due. You own it to at least say long before it's due, I can't get it done. Now, if they walk in today and they give it to you and you're going to do it, and then the day goes on and you can't get it done, it's going to be a shorter window, but at least you went back and said, there's no way I'm going to get to this. And that's better than finding out the next day that it didn't get done. Anybody have a problem with that? I should put more water in my cup. I'm already out. The last thing is tell me when it's done. I tell Angie, when I delegate to her, it is gone. I will never think about it again. And I really almost always don't ever think about it again because I'm moving on to something else. There's so many things I want to do. I want to meet with more people. I want to create more things like this. I want to go out and talk to more people. I want to develop stuff. If I hold on to the thought that, didn't I ask Angie to do that? Now it's eating up some of my mental capacity. So when I give it to her, it's truly gone from my mind. So if she forgets it and I forgot it, it's gone. It's never going to get done until something bad happens. And I go, oh, hey, did you do that? Oh, no, I forgot. So, things are going to happen. We're going to make mistakes. But if you are going to take on something for someone to do it, tell them when it's done, because that way they don't have to come back and ask you, did you get that done? I think that's the worst. That is one of the reasons why I wouldn't delegate to someone. If I give it to them and I got to go ask them, they didn't finish the job. Tell me you can do it or not. Tell me if you're going to have a problem before it's due, and then tell me when it's done. Those are 3 things for rules of engagement. Can you think of another rule of engagement that you guys have seen that are valuable? It's entirely possible I captured all of the 3 best rules of engagement of all time.
Maybe just communicating if the project is going to take longer than you thought it would.
So that would be before it's due. Yep. Ask for a little more time. Let them know, hey, this is going to take longer. That's fair. Anything else?
Ask for help if it's needed. It kind of falls in that second bucket, but if you need help, escalate it before it leads to some sort of issue later down the road.
Yeah.
Find out when it's due.
Well, that's great. If I go to hand it to you, I need clear and compelling, right? So if you haven't told me when it's due, you own just as much of the responsibility as the person giving it to you to go, wait, when did you want it? Okay. Get this done as soon as you can means something very different to the person giving it to them as the person receiving it. Well, as soon as I can is December 15th. But for them, they're like sometime today. It's very different timelines. We got to be very clear about that. Any other ones? Okay, let's move on to the next part. I want to talk about the difference between responsibility and accountability. For those of you who've read the book, you probably read the part, well, you did if you read the book, where Salem talks about working in a nuclear power generation plant and a machine broke down. And every day that machine's down, they lose $100,000 a day. And so they have a meeting and the purchasing guys, now I'm paraphrasing, so read the book if you want to get the accurate story. The guy says, yeah, it's like 21 days out. We can get it. I put an order in today, so we'll have it in 21 days. And he looks at him like, 21 days? Yeah, 21 days times $100,000 a day? Are you crazy? That doesn't work. So go back and find another solution. Figure out what else you can do. And so then they go out and they come back and the team says, hey, we found another place that had one of these. We can get it. It's going to be here in 3 days or 7 days, I think it was. Anyway, he's like, 7 days. And where is it? Well, it's in Scotland, and they were in England, which I guess is pretty close together. On a map, they look really, really close. And so they were really happy that they had ordered the part to be here in 3 days. And he looks at them and thinks, well, that's $300,000. Could we drive there? And they're like in a car? Yeah, like in a car. Yeah, we could go there. go there. Get in the car and drive 8 hours, get the part and drive 8 hours back. So we lose 1 day at $100,000 instead of 3 days at $100,000. It almost seems kind of stupid when you put it like that. But the guy who was the purchasing agent who placed the order for 21 days out was responsible to buy the part, and he did his job. When we said that's unacceptable, we took it to another level. The other guys who found another part somewhere else felt that they were responsible because they found a part and they get it in 3 days. But nobody was accountable to the final results, which is we're going to lose money. We're going to lose a lot of money. Responsibility is doing a task. Accountability is owning the outcome. We as a team, if we're going to delegate to one another, we have to own the outcome. We have to own it. That's what our book's about. It's this idea of accountability. You showing up at work and doing something is not the same as being a part of the team and owning it. There's a lot of people who do something, but a team that really trusts each other, that cares about each other, that cares about their clients, that cares about the work they do and takes pride in it, they take accountability for the work they do. And I want us to think in the terms of accountability when we delegate. When someone comes to you and says, I trust you enough to let you do this for me, you own it. You're not visiting it. You're not helping it. You own it, all of it. You're accountable for the result. So look at that and say, how am I doing this to the best of my ability? And if I have questions, I ask up front. And if I have problems, I tell them ahead of time. And when I'm done, I tell them it's done because I owned it. I'm accountable for it. That's a much higher level of commitment than it is to be responsible for something. Hopefully that makes sense. One of the reasons why people don't feel comfortable going and taking accountability for things is it's outside their comfort zone, which is another word for fear. And fear is like a prison that holds us back. Everything good happens outside your comfort zone. This is where life is exciting, outside your comfort zone. I may have shared this with you guys before, but I love this slide. When you look at the fear that grips us, which is also called comfort zone, of taking a risk, of taking on a responsibility or the accountability for something that is big, we get locked up, especially if we work at a place where people hand us our head whenever we make a mistake. But if we're creating a culture where people are free to take a risk, they're free to try something, they're supported in the journey of developing their skills, they move past their comfort zone to a place of better results, better growth. What frees people out of that fear, that's called a comfort zone, is love. If you worked at a place where you felt like people loved you, and it's not weird love, it's love, like being patient with them, being kind to them, and not being jealous of someone's success and not boasting of yours above everyone else. You're a team. You should be proud of the team, not just you. You can't be rude to people. And you got to forgive people when they do it wrong, because you make mistakes too. If I work in a place where I feel loved like that, I could take on all kinds of responsibilities. I could take on all kinds of tasks, and I could own it because I'm not fearful of making a mistake, because I'm not going to get my head handed to me. This is a great thought that I came up with. That's not what makes it great, but I did come up with it. The moment you take accountability for everything in your life is the moment you gain the power to change everything in your life. So if you're struggling with delegation today, what part of you is insecure that other people would get credit for work you do, that someone else could look good, and maybe it's not you? How insecure are you about that? What kind of fears do you have in taking on a responsibility or a thing to do that you don't know exactly how to do? Are you willing to take a risk because you work at a place where it's okay to make a mistake? You've got to take the chance to move to a place where you're willing to risk it because you feel like the people on your team care about you. But when you own it, then you can change it. You can make it great. You can accept delegation. You can give delegation. You've got to own everything about what you're doing. And then you're free in a healthy way to give delegation and to accept delegation from those around you. Clear and compelling communication, tools, training, and then accountability. That's the process of delegation. I'm going to open it up for feedback. What did you learn today? What's